something has to change when it comes to border immigration.
We're urging President Biden to create a special position to bring order to chaos, put somebody in charge whose focus is just on the border, and that's Jay Johnson.
Democrat Congressman Cuellar and Republican Senator Graham pleading for the Biden administration to take real action at the border and tap Jay Johnson as the new border czar. This as Vice President Harris announces a trip to Asia, despite the crisis at the border intensifying. Here to react is former acting DHS Secretary Ken Cuccinelli. Ken, you really got a feel for Henry Cuellar, the representative there in Texas. I mean, he sounds so desperate. He's so upset that no one
is desperate.
Yeah, I mean, no one in the administration seems to care what's happening to his constituents, to the people there in Texas. Senator Graham saying, you know, the answer might be Jay Johnson. What do you think?
Well, look, Jay Johnson has broad bipartisan respect for his performance as Secretary of Homeland Security. He was the person who gave us the benchmark of 1,000 a day as a crisis coming over the border, and they are at 6 times that at the border. They're completely overwhelmed. And look, I give these two gentlemen all the credit in the world. On the Republican side, Senator Graham is often in the bipartisan mix on immigration issues, so he isn't always the toughest. To have him and then a Democrat, Henry Cuellar, calling this out, first of all, is an incredible vote of no confidence in Mayorkas, the current secretary, and Vice President Harris, who is essentially filling the role they're describing for Jay Johnson. It's incredible.
I mean, you know the politics of this. You've been there. You know, you saw what it was like before. You see what it's happening now. Just be honest and tell us, is this deliberate?
Yes. Yeah, so that was what I was going to say. These two gentlemen, I give them a lot of credit for optimism with respect to the notion that this administration actually wants to solve the problem. Interestingly enough, the greatest inconvenience for the administration is the COVID-19.
Right.
Because they just want to ship illegals in here.
Right.
This is about processing them in. Look at how they deal with COVID-19 everywhere else in the country. Everywhere else, it's a hazmat emergency, but they don't give a rat's tail on the border.
Right. It's so
what
interesting.
Does that tell
it's so
you?
interesting you say
It's
that.
intentional.
I want you to listen to this sound from Dr. Rochelle Walensky downplaying COVID at the border.
Right.
Do you know how the surge of illegal immigrants with COVID is affecting the overall rate? You know, it sounds like the percentages down there on the border are astronomical.
Yeah, you know, I would say that the percentages in the southern part of this country are really quite high, and I don't necessarily think we can attribute all of that to what's going on at the southern border.
Notice how she skirts that. Fauci did the same thing. They asked him, you know, earlier in the year when we had that variant coming in from Brazil, and he says, well, that's too political. I don't want to get involved in that. But he doesn't mind getting involved with COVID restrictions for Americans all over the country.
Right. So, look, when you don't get an answer to a question like that, that's an admission that it's a terrible problem in that region. And it is a terrible problem in that region. And look, a lot of this, we talk about this like public health, but so much of it is math. And when you think back to the beginning of the Delta variant, that was when it was most important to be keeping out to not have an open borders policy.
Yeah.
Now it's still the worst part of the country, and they won't shut it down. They won't even slow it down. This is terrible for American security and public health.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, you know, as we're trying to get out of this pandemic, to have an open southern border policy. Ken Cuccinelli, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good to be with you.
All right.